Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Functional Longevity Podcast, where we give you insight on how to get fit, feel younger, live better. I'm your host, Chris Borda, best-selling author and owner of Y.E.S Fitness. Let me first thank you for taking time from your busy day to listen to what I have to say. And before we get started, let me thank our sponsor, Y.E.S Fitness. Most people lose the ability to enjoy life as they age. At Y.E.S Fitness, we help people age 40 plus get fit so they can live longer and enjoy those extra years doing the things they love to do. Some quick housekeeping. If you'd like to get a timestamp or a transcript of today's broadcast, head on over to yesfitnessct.com. Scroll across the top. You'll see a button that has podcasts. Click on that button to give you access to any one of our now 402 episodes. You can also get this broadcast wherever podcasts can be found. The powerful sleep solution after 40 that most people completely overlook. We all know how important sleep is, and I think you're going to find this most recent research extremely interesting. Because if you're over 40 and you're not sleeping the way you used to, you're not imagining it. You go to bed tired, but your brain will not shut off. You just keep thinking and thinking and thinking. You wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning, you toss and turn, you look at the clock, staring at the ceiling. Or maybe you sleep through the night, but still wake up feeling exhausted. And here's the problem most people do not realize. Poor sleep is not just about being tired the next day. It affects your blood sugar. It affects your recovery. It affects your mood. It affects your focus. And it affects your cravings. It affects your hormones. And over time, it affects your long-term health and independence. That's why I wanted to talk about a newer, reviewed, published in the Journal of BMJ, Family Medicine and Community Health, that looked at something most people completely overlook when it comes to sleep improvement: strength training. Now, before we get into the study, let me say this. Most people still think exercise is about calories, weight loss, looking better. But a properly designed strength training program does something much bigger than that. It changes how your brain functions. It changes how your nerve system regulates stress. It changes how your body handles blood sugar. It changes your balance and coordination. It changes your muscle mass and bone density. It changes confidence. It changes independence. And apparently, it changes sleep quality in a major way too. And honestly, I do not think we even fully understand all the benefits yet. Strength training is really amazing for the body. Because every few months, another study comes out showing another powerful effect, resistance training, that goes way beyond muscle, goes way beyond fat loss. It goes way beyond caloric deficit. And this latest review is another perfect example. Researchers looked at 24 randomized controlled trials involving more than 2,000 adults over the age of 60 who struggled with insomnia and poor sleep quality. And I want you to understand something important here. This is not one small study. This was what is called a systemic review and network meta-analysis. That means because researchers analyzed and combined multiple studies together to compare different forms of exercise against one another. This is a much stronger level of evidence than just one isolated trial. So something really to pay attention to. The researchers compared different exercise styles, including aerobic training, combination training, flexibility work, balance work, and resistance training. And as you might have guessed, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, resistance training came out on top. Not cardio, not walking, not stretching, not mixed exercise programs. Strength training, resistance training. It's the king. The participants in these studies generally trained around 2 to 3 times a week, averaging about 50 minutes per session over roughly 14 weeks. And one of the measurements they used was called the Pittsburgh Sleep Quality Index, which is one of the most widely used sleep assessment tools in research. The resistance training improves sleep scores more than aerobic exercise and more than combination exercise programs. Now, why would strength training improve sleep so much? Honestly, there's probably multiple reasons we don't even know yet. First, your body's designed to adapt. When you strength train properly, you create a controlled stress response. You challenge muscles. You challenge your connective tissue. You challenge coordination and the nervous system. And then your body has to recover. Recovery, something we don't think about often enough. Sleep becomes part of that recovery process. So, in simple terms, when your body has a reason to rebuild and recover, it often sleeps better. That makes sense biologically. But there's also a neurological side to this. Strength training is not just muscles. People forget that. Learning movement patterns, stabilizing your joints, improving coordination, creating force safely, and controlling resistance all involve the brain. And during sleep, especially deeper stages of sleep, the brain helps reinforce motor learning and recovery. So, in other words, your workouts are not just physical practice. Your brain continues processing and organizing those patterns while you sleep. Now, let me say something really important here. This does not mean harder is always better, because this is where people think get themselves in trouble. They hear strength training helps sleep, and suddenly they think they need to do 6 brutal workouts a week, boot camp style training, randomized just online workouts, or programs designed for 20-year-olds. This is not what the study showed. Actually, one of the biggest lessons from the research is that consistency and proper programming matter more than destruction. I'm just going to say that again because people don't realize the importance of these things. First, consistency. We need to be consistent in all facets of life to be successful. And the programming of a workout or workout phases needs to be done correctly. So, a safe, progressive, properly designed program gives your body enough stimulus to adapt without overwhelming recovery. That is the sweet spot. And that is exactly where many adults over 40 struggle. Either they do nothing, which a lot of people do nothing, or they do way too much too fast, eventually probably hurting themselves. And both are problems. I see it all the time. Someone starts exercises again after years off and jumps into high intensity workouts 7 days a week. The joints hurt, the recovery tanks, their sleep gets worse, the motivation crashes. It's just a complete mess. And they think exercise is the problem. But usually the problem is poor programming. A great strength training program should meet you where you are. It should account for injuries, mobility limitations, stress levels, recovery ability, training history, and recurrent level of fitness. What's your life? All these different factors should be going into a program. It should be progressed gradually. You didn't get out of shape overnight, and we're not going to get into shape overnight. It should improve movement quality first. And over time, it should help build resilience across the entire body. That is where the magic really happens, because the sleep improvements are only part of the story. The same type of properly designed resistance training shown to improve sleep is also associated with a ton of things, like it's going to help lower your blood pressure. You have better insulin sensitivity and blood sugar control, improve your balance and fall prevention. All worried about that as we get older. It's going to help reduce anxiety and depressive symptoms, improve bone density, improve muscle mass. It's going to have better cognitive function. I mean, just even more and more things. It's going to lead to greater independence as we age. And I want you to think about how connected all these systems really are. Because better sleep improves recovery. Better recovery improves your energy. More energy improves exercise consistency. Exercise improves muscle mass and metabolic health. Improved metabolic health improves sleep quality even more. Everything feeds everything else. It's all intertwined. This is why I always say longevity is not about one magic supplement, one hack, one perfect diet. It's about building systems inside the body that support one another. And strength training does that. We can see that. It may be one of the most powerful anchors in the entire system, not because it makes you look fit, because it helps preserve function. And I'm not just talking about function, getting up and down off the ground and things like that, the function of your whole body, because it helps preserve independence. It helps preserve quality of life. And honestly, I think one of the biggest mistakes people make after 40 is understanding how much strength impacts almost every aspect of aging. Muscle isn't just a cosmetic tissue, big muscles to look fitter. Muscle helps regulate blood sugar. It supports joints, protects bones, improves balance. Muscle supports your metabolism. It influences inflammation. And apparently, muscle strengthening activity may also be one of the most effective non-medication tools we have for improving sleep quality as we age. Now, does this mean you should stop walking or doing cardio? Of course not. Cardiovascular training still matters tremendously for your heart health, conditioning, endurance, and overall health. But this review strongly suggests that resistance training deserves a much bigger role in conversations about sleep and healthy aging. The research shows, and it shows especially after 40. And here is the encouraging part. You don't need to be a powerlifter. You don't need to do the workouts you did when you were in your 20s, even in your 30s. Scrap that stuff. You don't need 2 hours to work out. You don't need complicated exercises. You simply need a smart plan done consistently. A smart plan. 2 or 3 properly designed sessions per week can create enormous changes over time. And most people who benefit the most, these people who benefit the most often are the people who start slowly and stay consistent. People think they like to feel sore. It's not fun to feel sore. I've been there. It doesn't make exercise enjoyable. It's certainly not if you have an injury. That's the real secret. Not crushing yourself, not surviving workouts. Build a body that functions better year after year. And if you're listening to this right now, thinking, I'm exhausted all the time. My sleep is terrible. My energy is low. I feel stiff. I feel weaker than I used to. I know I need to do something. It doesn't need to be a lot. Please understand this. Your body is incredibly adaptable. It will adapt at age 40, at age 50, 60, 70, and beyond. But it needs the right stimulus, the right progressions, and the right plan. Because a well-designed strength training program does not just change how you look. It changes how you sleep. It can change how you move, how you feel, and actually how you age, and potentially how long you maintain independence and quality of life. And I truly believe we are only beginning to understand how powerful that really is. So if you found this episode helpful, share it with someone who wants to stay strong, sharp, sleep better, and independent as they age. And remember, the goal is not just to live longer. The goal is to live better. Keep training, keep moving, keep strength training for sure. And I'm Chris Borda. This is the Functional Longevity Podcast, and I will see you next time with more information on how to get fit, feel younger, and live better. Thanks.